Something enormous is happening to the global economy right now. Not next year, not in 10 years, right now. And most people can feel it, even if they cannot fully explain it. Life feels more expensive, jobs feel less secure, homes feel harder to afford, debt feels heavier. The future feels less predictable. And for the first time in decades, millions of ordinary people are asking the same question. Are the old rules still working? Because for most of our lives, we were told a simple story. Study hard, get a good job, work consistently, buy a home, save money, retire comfortably. That story was never perfect, but it gave people something incredibly valuable: confidence. Confidence that hard work would eventually create stability. Today, that confidence is fading, and that may be the biggest economic shift of our lifetime. This is not just another recession, not just inflation, not just technology, not just housing. It is all of these things happening at the same time. The economic foundation that shaped the last 40 years is changing, and when foundations change, everything built on top of them changes too. For decades, the world benefited from cheap money. Interest rates stayed low, borrowing was easy, housing prices rose, stock markets expanded, businesses grew rapidly, consumers spent freely. The system became dependent on cheap credit. Then inflation arrived. Suddenly, central banks had a problem. If prices kept rising, people would lose purchasing power even faster. So interest rates went up. And overnight, the economy entered a completely different environment. The same house became more expensive. The same loan became more expensive. The same debt became more dangerous. The same paycheck bought less. For many families, it felt like the financial ground shifted beneath their feet. But inflation is only one piece of the story. Housing may be an even bigger one. For previous generations, owning a home was often the cornerstone of financial stability. Today, in many places, housing has become a financial obstacle. Prices climbed faster than incomes. Rents surged. Mortgage payments exploded. And suddenly, a normal family needed a much larger portion of its income simply to keep a roof over its head. When housing consumes too much income, everything else suffers. Savings suffer. Investments suffer. Family planning suffers. Retirement planning suffers. Freedom suffers. And that creates a society where even people with decent incomes feel financially trapped. Then there is debt. Debt is not automatically bad. A mortgage can help build wealth. A business loan can create opportunity. Education can increase earning power. But debt becomes dangerous when it is used to maintain a lifestyle that income can no longer support. That is exactly what happened in many parts of the modern economy. People borrowed to bridge the gap between rising costs and stagnant purchasing power. At first, it felt manageable. Then rates increased. Suddenly, the future became more expensive, and that is when many households discovered how little margin they actually had. This is one reason financial stress feels so widespread today. Many people are not poor, but they are fragile, and fragility is becoming one of the defining characteristics of modern economic life. A single unexpected expense can create panic. A job loss can create crisis. A medical emergency can create debt. A major repair can destroy a budget. People are discovering that financial security is not about income alone. It is about resilience. And resilience is becoming harder to build. At the same time, another force is transforming the economy: artificial intelligence. AI is creating excitement, fear, optimism, and uncertainty all at once. Some people believe AI will create enormous opportunities. Others fear it will destroy millions of jobs. The truth is probably somewhere in between. Throughout history, technology has always replaced certain jobs while creating entirely new industries. The difference today is speed. The change is happening faster than many people expected. For the first time, highly educated office workers are asking the same question factory workers asked during previous waves of automation. Could technology replace part of what I do? This question matters because economies run on confidence. When workers feel secure, they spend. When they spend, businesses grow. When businesses grow, hiring increases. When hiring increases, optimism spreads. But when people become uncertain about their future income, they behave differently. They spend less, save more, take fewer risks, delay major purchases, and economic activity slows. That uncertainty is spreading through many industries today. The global economy is changing as well. For years, the world operated on maximum efficiency. Products were manufactured wherever costs were lowest. Supply chains stretched across continents, companies optimized everything, but recent events exposed the weaknesses of that system. Pandemics, wars, political tensions, energy crises, supply shortages. Suddenly, efficiency was no longer enough. Security became just as important. And security costs money. This means many products and services may remain structurally more expensive than people became accustomed to during previous decades. The world is becoming less predictable, and uncertainty always has a price. Now, here is where this story becomes personal. Because most people do not spend their days thinking about central banks, global trade, artificial intelligence, or supply chains. They think about groceries, rent, mortgage payments, fuel, electricity, school expenses, retirement. And when all of those costs rise at the same time, life feels heavier. That is why so many people feel exhausted financially. Not because they are irresponsible, not because they are lazy, but because the environment changed, the rules changed, and many people are still using strategies designed for a different economic era. One of the most important shifts happening today is the growing divide between labor and ownership. Labor is what you earn from working. Ownership is what you own. For decades, many people built wealth through both. They worked, earned income, bought homes, invested, and gradually accumulated assets. Today, that balance is becoming harder to achieve. Asset prices often rise faster than wages. People who already own assets may benefit. People starting from scratch face a steeper climb. This creates frustration because hard work alone no longer feels sufficient. The distance between earning money and building wealth has grown, and that reality is reshaping society. You can see it everywhere. Young adults delaying homeownership, families postponing children, workers staying in jobs they dislike, retirees worrying about inflation, middle-class households carrying hidden financial stress. The shift is not always visible, but it is everywhere. Now, does this mean the future is hopeless? Absolutely not. In fact, every major economic shift creates both risks and opportunities. The same technology that threatens some jobs creates new industries. The same internet that spreads misinformation also provides access to knowledge. The same AI tools that automate tasks can dramatically increase productivity. The same global economy that creates competition also creates opportunities. But opportunity does not mean certainty. There are no guarantees, no magic investments, no secret shortcuts, no risk-free path. Anyone promising easy wealth during uncertain times should be approached with caution. The real opportunity is adaptation, because adaptability is becoming one of the most valuable assets a person can possess. The people most likely to thrive in the coming years may not be the smartest. They may not be the richest. They may not even be the most talented. They may simply be the most adaptable. The people willing to learn, willing to evolve, willing to understand technology, willing to improve their skills, willing to rethink old assumptions, willing to prepare instead of react. That does not sound exciting, but it is incredibly powerful. Financial resilience is rarely built through dramatic decisions. It is usually built through small decisions repeated consistently. Understanding your expenses, avoiding unnecessary debt, building emergency savings, developing valuable skills, thinking long-term, living below your means when possible, protecting flexibility. These habits may sound boring, but in uncertain times, boring often wins because flexibility creates options, and options create security. Perhaps the biggest lesson from this economic shift is that stability can no longer be taken for granted. Previous generations often inherited stability from the system itself. Today, stability increasingly has to be built intentionally. That is uncomfortable, but it is also empowering. Because while we cannot control inflation, global politics, artificial intelligence, interest rates, or financial markets, we can control how prepared we are. We can control our skills, our habits, our decisions, our awareness. The biggest economic shift of our lifetime is not simply happening in stock markets, government offices, or corporate boardrooms. It is happening around dinner tables, inside family budgets, inside career decisions, inside everyday conversations about money. People know something has changed. They feel it every time they pay a bill, every time they look at housing prices, every time they worry about the future. And they are right. Something has changed. The era of predictable economic stability is fading. A new era is emerging. An era defined by rapid technological change, higher uncertainty, greater complexity, and constant adaptation. That sounds frightening, but it does not have to be, because uncertainty is not the same as helplessness. The future will belong to people who understand the shift instead of ignoring it, people who prepare instead of panic, people who build resilience instead of appearances, people who focus on reality instead of wishful thinking. The biggest economic shift of our lifetime is already underway. The question is no longer whether it is happening. The real question is whether we are preparing for the world that comes next.